Hello, good afternoon everyone. I had another request. Several people wanted me to discuss the 911 call with Darlie's. Before I go any further in this, I just want to say that just listening to this call is incredibly graphic. If you've never heard it, some of the descriptions that I'll have to give are going to be even more graphic. I'm not going to show photos. Yes, I've seen photos, yes I have photos, but I'm not showing them. You know, they're important, they do tell a story, but I just don't feel like autopsy photos are the type of thing that should be out there, blasted all over the internet for the whole world to see. Especially when it's two little boys that were so horribly murdered. Before I start on this, okay, let me just say that we did have an official transcript of the 911 call. When you pull up that transcript, they have a lot of it marked as unintelligible, which just basically means you can't understand it. But in listening to it, I could understand a lot of things that they were saying that were marked unintelligible. Ironically, there is a small group, relatively small group of people that think she's guilty, that give us a lot of grief. And they had a video of the 911 call, and even their transcript was more accurate than the one from the court. I mean, literally. And so that was astonishing in and of itself. So I decided to sit down and do a new 911 transcript, and I included little segments of Darren talking and some of the family members talking, explaining the scene so that you can get an idea of not just hearing the 911 call, not just hearing what they're saying, but actually understanding what they were faced with and what they were having to look at and see and deal with. Hold on a second, let me turn these notifications down, I forgot. Okay, there we go. At any rate, so I ended up using both. I used the court official transcript, which had a lot of blanks in it, and then I used the other one that the other people had made, and I went off of both of them. And if it was something that was marked unintelligible, I listened to it over and over and over again to see if I could understand it. That's what you're supposed to do when you're doing transcription. I've done transcription for 2 different companies. It's on my resume. One of them was law-related type stuff. I can't really give examples, it's all confidential, but I did have to pass an FBI background check and test to make sure I could do it and everything. And I will say that if I had ever turned in a transcript like the state's transcript of this 911 call, it wouldn't have been accepted. They would have had to send it to somebody else to do it on a rushed basis, and then they would have docked my pay. You are not supposed to put unintelligible unless it is just absolutely unintelligible, literally. And in this case, there was a lot that could be made out that they were not putting in there. Maybe some little notes here just to say, I don't like listening to this call. It makes me incredibly emotional. That took about a full week when I was making this video and listening to little segments of it over and over and over again to try to understand everything I possibly could. Cried a river for the entire week. I listened to it just this morning one more time before I went live, hoping I could get the emotions out of me and I could be a little bit more objective in this video. I make no promises. I'll do my best. But anyway, that's what actually drove me to start doing this particular transcription. I am going to, yes, Donna, the issue about the knife, that's one of the reasons I'm doing this, and I was just going to say that. It's a lot like the silly string video. You know, they would take that little 3-second snippet where Darlie managed to smile and spread the silly string and show that, and oh, she's this vain, horrible person that, you know, didn't care about her kids. You know, that's really inappropriate to take any full-length audio or video and then just take snippets out of it and use them to warp them to your own opinion. And we'll get to that about the whole knife thing. But yes, when we're doing this, for one thing, I noticed earlier that it's when I hit play and I'm trying to show the words on the screen, sometimes they do blur a little bit. I'm going to do the best I can to get it as clear as I possibly can for you guys. I'll be hitting pause here and there to explain various things. I will put the link to the original video down in the comments so that you can all see that. But you know, in a nutshell, overall, Darlie and Darren were both completely frantic during this call. Completely and utterly frantic. I've never listened to this call and heard what I thought was guilt. I've always listened to this call and heard two frantic parents desperately trying to save their kids' lives. Darlie basically calls and tells them that somebody came into her house and stabbed her and her kids. She gives them the address, and then she's trying to help her kids, and she's interacting with Darren trying to help her kids. The 911 dispatcher actually gets kind of irritated at her at one point, is telling her to calm down and tell her what's going on, and it's only then that she actually stops and really does give any more detail to the 911 dispatcher, because that was not her primary concern. I mean, I guess she felt like, as a mother, I've given them my address, surely they'll come here, and in the meantime I'm trying to save my kids, especially since it was taking them so long to get there. But it's not until the very end that she does mention the knife and fingerprints, and she did not say anything about her fingerprints being on that knife. I hear that all the time. She was unduly concerned with her prints being on the knife. That's not even what was said. She says, but we could have gotten the prints, maybe. Okay? And the reason that was said was because she was speaking to the police officer who was already in her house. In the meantime, 911 dispatch did not even realize that a police officer was already on scene. Officer Waddell is the one who arrived first on the scene, and I have a whole other video on issues with him, but he was not even supposed to respond to the scene. He showed up because he was close by. So especially as it gets towards the end of this 911 call, it is just complete and utter chaos. There are places where Darlie's talking to 911 dispatch trying to get them to answer her, and they're not answering her because they're doing their radio thing. And then there's places towards the end where Darlie is actually talking to a police officer that is already in the house, and that's Officer Waddell, and 911 dispatch doesn't realize that he's even in there. To their knowledge, the first police officer was just then arriving at the front door. So there's a lot of confusion. And when she mentioned that about the knives, that she was talking to Officer Waddell. There was already a police officer in the house. She was talking to Officer Waddell, and 911 dispatch assumed that she was talking to them. And so that's what even caused that to be brought up. But there was a lot of things taken out of context. And another thing I wanted to mention here, the state enhanced the audio. And I've always found that to be not warranted. There again, doing some of these transcripts that I've done in the past, if it's something like somebody was wearing a wire or a bug or whatever you want to call it, yeah, there were times I had to enhance the audio to be able to make out what everybody was saying. But in this case, you could hear Darlie and you could hear the 911 dispatcher just fine. So there was no reason for the state to quote-unquote enhance that audio to begin with. What they did by doing that was they actually muffled out all of the background audio. And in this case, a lot of that was Darren speaking, and after Officer Waddell showed up, him speaking as well. And I think there's reasons that they did that, which I'll get into at another time. But I will hit pause here and there and try to discuss a couple of things. If questions come up, ask them. I'm going to try to pay attention into the live feed here. And this is just something I think needs to be done, but I'm not really looking forward to it. And I'm going to try to stay as calm as I can, but just bear with me if I get emotional or something. I'm fixing to hit play on the video and we'll start. It begins with Darren, and these are little excerpts taken from various interviews that he has done. All of them are on that YouTube channel for Darlie if you'd like to see them all. They're from various dates, various years. And it's hot in Texas, just let me say that. I've got fans going in here like crazy, and it's still 83 degrees in here, so that's why my hair's blowing all over the place and you hear the background noise. But here we go. I'm going to turn this camera around and we'll hit play. See how this goes.
I went back upstairs, and it was probably 11 o'clock or so. It's after the news probably, and climbed into bed and went to sleep. And about 2:30, first thing that I remember is hearing a real light glass break. The first thing I hear is this real light glass break. It seems like the very first thing that I remember hearing is a glass break. And then this screaming, this huge, loud screaming. Next thing I hear is Darlie screaming. Screaming as loud as any person you've ever heard. When I came down the stairs, I passed her. She was screaming, Devin, 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 Devin. I mean, just freaking. But the first thing that I heard was Darlie screaming, Devin, 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 Devin. I mean, she was just going over and over and over again. It jarred me, and, you know, I jumped up. I run down the stairs as fast as I can. I looked up. I'm yelling at her, what the hell happened? You know, she grabs the phone. She's running back and forth. She's screaming and she's hollering, and that 911 tape is exactly what I heard. I mean, she went straight to the phone, straight to the sink, get the towels, and I was straight to Devin. And when I get over to Devin, he's laying on the floor face up, and he has these huge 2 gashes in the front and the top of his chest.
Okay. Now, that's very important. Again, I've seen the autopsy photos, and when Darren says that, he is not exaggerating at all. That's one of the reasons that they think that there were 2 different knives used, and a lot of people think there were 2 different intruders. I do think that there was definitely 2 intruders there. The knife that was used on Darlie and Damon was the kitchen knife that was found from, that was actually from Darlie's house. When you look at Damon's wounds, how do I just... Are we back? Said I had an internet connection. If you look at Damon's wounds, had he lived, his scars would have been a lot like the one on Darlie's forearm. His wounds closed very nicely and evenly, for lack of a better phrase. I know that sounds terrible, but I don't know how else to describe it. Devin, on the other hand, when they tried to close the wounds to even show you the length of the stab or the incision, it doesn't even completely close. Whatever knife was used on Devin, I'm guessing, like they have said, I understand why now since I've seen the photos, but we're assuming that it was probably one of those double-edged knives that was thicker in the middle and wider, because number one, none of Devin's blood was ever found on the knife that was used on Damon and Darlie, and I don't think they'll ever find his blood on there because I don't think that knife was used on him. But when they try to close his wounds, they don't even close. When he was stabbed, it did so much damage to his, his tissue and the bones and stuff in his chest that they don't even completely close. And so when Darren's saying that he's looking down and he had 2 gaping holes, he's not exaggerating at all. And putting yourself in the position of either one of these parents, I just can't even imagine what that would be like. But we'll go ahead and continue now.
And I see the coffee table bent over. He has no life in his face.
911, what is your emergency? Ma'am? They just stabbed me in my cabin. What? They just stabbed me in my cabin. Who did? Hang on.
I don't know what's wrong with the connection here.
Emergency. Hang on, ma'am. Unknown medical emergency, 5801 Eagle Drive. Ma'am, I'm trying to get an ambulance to you. Hang on a minute. God, my babies are dying. What's going on, ma'am? Unknown medical emergency, 5801 Eagle Drive, about 238.
And I'm hearing what's happened. And she's screaming into the phone, "Oh my God, my babies have been killed! Get here! I need an ambulance! And I'm just hearing this hysterical, going on, this hysteria just happening, and I'm sitting here thinking, "Oh my God, I've got to get air into this baby's body." And I go down to blow into his mouth to give him CPR, cock his head back, and as soon as I did, blood just spewed out of his chest. I didn't know what to do, I mean, you're just freaking. I mean, just trying to do everything that you can. I tried to revive him. I gave him CPR. I blew into his mouth. As soon as I blew into his mouth, blood came out of his chest. And it was just a complete hole. I put my hands over it, trying to hold the holes closed. And then I look up, and Damon's laying over 12 feet away from him up against the floor. And he's just laying there, and he's not, he's moving a little bit.
And you can hear the reaction from both Darlie and Darren when that happens, when he tries to give him CPR and ends up basically getting sprayed by his son's own blood. And it's coming up right here.
Linda Vista and Willowbrook. Attention 901, medical emergency. Maybe possible stabbing. 5801, Eagle Drive, box 238, South Street, Linda Vista and Willowbrook. Come out 232.
And there she was just asking, what do we do? What do we do? And wasn't able to get an answer from dispatch.
Oh my God! Leave units going toward 6801 Eagle Drive, 5801 Eagle Drive. Hysterical female on the phone. Since her child has been stabbed. Ma'am, I need you to calm down and talk to me. Twice.
So there, is the first one. She's saying, I need you to calm down and talk to me. As if any parent could actually calm down looking at that and trying to do what they were doing. And she responds, well, didn't you get my address? I mean, she wasn't concerned about telling them every single solitary thing that happened at this point. She just was trying to save her kid's life and get the ambulance there as soon as possible.
5801 Eagle. Ma'am, listen to me. I need you to... Oh my God! Can you take the radio clip? Yes. Ma'am, I need you to talk to me. Ma'am, I can't understand you. You're going to have to slow down, calm down, and talk to me. What?
So she's again telling her to calm down, slow down, and talk to her. And she says, I'm talking to my babies. They're dying. And she was just previously talking to Damon. Devin was mostly being attended to by Darren, from what I understand, as he was certified in CPR. And Darlie was, for the most part, tending to Damon. And also going back and forth and re-wetting towels to get to Darren during this process. So right here is the very first explanation that we start getting of what happened to the dispatch.
What is going on?
We believe he was stabbed laying down, and he was stabbed in the back. That's the younger of the two of them, okay? He obviously gets up and puts his hand on his mommy. That's how Darlie says she wakes up.
What is going on? Somebody came in while I was sleeping. Me and my little boys were sleeping downstairs. Stabbed my baby. Stabbed me. I looked up. I was crazy. He ran out to the garage. Threw the knife down. My babies are dying. They're dead. Oh my God.
Okay, and we can point out that there, that little blibbit where she says that she was frightened. That is a big thing of contention as well. Some people think that she said she was fighting there. And then that goes towards, gosh, well, if she fought with this man, why doesn't she remember him? Why can't she describe him, etc., etc., etc.? Everybody hears something different. To me, it sounds like frightened there. It definitely sounds like frightened to me. And I will say that it sounds a lot more like frightened on the original audio prior to the state enhancing it. And I don't know if I was clear on that, but this transcription here was done with the original audio. This is not the state enhanced version where they muffled out the background noise. This is the original one because I wanted to hear as much as I could of what was going on with Darren and what was going on when Officer Waddell entered the house.
Down the phone with him. Oh my God! Good. Just sit down one. Hold on, honey. Hold on. Hold on. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Ma'am, is there with you? Ma'am. What? Is there anybody in the house besides you and your children? My husband, he just ran downstairs. He's helping me, but he's dead. Oh my God, he's dead. Okay, how many little boys? Is it 2 boys? 3 of them. Listen to me. Calm down. Go ahead.
And that was the first mention she made of herself. That little comment there, I feel really bad, I think I'm dying. That is the one time that I actually hear Darlie make any reference to herself or her own health whatsoever in this call. And you also have to keep in mind that she was bleeding profusely. Most of that blood on that crime scene was Darlie's. She almost bled to death. Darren was expecting her to bleed to death. Darlie thought that she was going to die. And that's also why she kept asking about you know, we got to catch him, I don't know who did it, etc., etc. She didn't think she was going to make it. She was bleeding just profusely, and that's why she was concerned about, you know, catching who did it. I mean, if you had seen this happen to your little boys and you thought you were going to die, I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to say to your husband. Let me see what Melissa's saying here. Frightened, not fighting. Yeah, that's what I hear. I hear frightened, and I don't know if they altered them or if it was just during the course of their enhancing it, if that somehow altered the sound, you know, not purposely on their end or what, but it does sound like frightened to me.
5801 Eagle Drive, 5801.
And look how many times she's asking. Pay attention during this video how many times she's pleading for help. When are they going to get here? When are they going to get here? It's taking them forever, etc.
Eagle Drive, going to be in 7. When are they going to be here? Ma'am, they're on their way. Oh my God. 235. Ma'am, how old are your boys? What? How old are your boys? No. Okay. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh shit.
Okay, now just right here, I want to interject this. People talk about lying and saying things incorrectly. Notice right here, Darlie said that Devin was 7. Devin was not 7. He was 6 years old. He was a few days shy of being 7. And to me, that just goes to show how set he was on being 7 and how anxious they were for his birthday party. That's all they'd been talking about was his birthday party coming up, and he was going to be 7.
Oh man, can you? Oh my God! Is your name Darlie? Yes. Is your husband's name Darren? Yes, please. Please, God, they're taking forever. Is there nobody in your head? There was you don't know who did this?
Okay, now that's important. That's incredibly important for a lot of reasons. Officer Waddell says in repeated interviews that Darlie was just standing around holding a rag up to her own neck. She wasn't really concerned about her boys in any way, shape, or form. He had specifically had to ask her to help the boys, and she just stood there and did nothing. That's obviously a lie. He also claims that he ran into Darren in the front yard, supposedly going across the street to go get that nurse. I think her name was Karen. But if that's the case and Darren is across the street, why do we hear Darren standing right there next to Waddell? If Darren was across the street, there would be no need to even say, look for a rag. If she was already holding a rag up against her neck, not worried about her babies, there would be no reason to say, look for a rag. And furthermore, he's specifically telling her, lay down, okay, just sit down. They were now noticing Darlie's slit throat. Okay, I see Rhonda. Let's play devil's advocate. How did she that the intruder threw the knife down but yet can't describe the attacker? Because it was dark. It was 2:30, between 2:30 and 2:35 in the morning. They had the lights off. They had been asleep. The television was on, so there was just a little bit of light, just enough light to kind of silhouette the man. And he was already in the kitchen area. And I guess he turned around and started walking out of the kitchen back door whenever he saw her getting up to come after him and Damon tagging along behind her.
And you know, they said, well, she should have been administering help to her little boys rather than concerned about, oh my God, my prints are on the knife.
I was there, remember? I mean, there was 21 towels, 5 of them had blood on them, 3 of them were on one boy and 2 were on the other. She's got the phone in her hand, all in a 5-minute period. I mean, what do you want her to do? I'm doing CPR. I've been certified for 7 years to do CPR. I know how to do it. She is getting help. You know, she got all those policemen, all those fire trucks, and the emergency crews.
Plus, she's injured herself also. Did you even know that there was a gash on her throat?
No, I didn't know until they brought her to the door that she was even cut, bleeding, or anything.
You said you didn't realize she was hurt until you came back in the house?
Right. Is that